Bitcoin diplomacy results in Elon deciding to change the plan to allow Teslas to be purchased with Bitcoin. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks once again for joining us. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. We also want to thank our Patreon supporters as well as our subscribers. If you enjoy this show, please take time to like. So we had a quick show here today because this morning I was kind of in a meeting with a friend who was one of our daily trading buddies, and he actually has a business in the accounting space. So what he shared with me was, it looks like Elon called up his CFO and said there'll be no impairment charge because I'll fix that with one tweet when it comes to Bitcoin. So what all this is about is the fact that the average cost for Tesla for their Bitcoin that they purchased 1.5 billion of is somewhere around $33,000 per Bitcoin. If the stock falls below 33,000, there has to be a line item on the balance sheet that articulates what this loss was, and it's called an impairment charge, and immediately gets added to the balance sheet of Tesla. On the flip side, if there's a profit there, it won't be registered on the balance sheet until the Bitcoin is sold by Tesla. So all of this going on has the aroma of the fact that Elon has chosen not to sell Bitcoin yet. The next bit of information is that Elon issued a tweet indicating that he's been in meetings or conversations with Bitcoin folk and the miners in particular, and what he indicated was that if at least 50% of the energy used to produce the Bitcoin is renewable, he would look at reinstating purchasing a Bitcoin from Tesla, or purchasing vehicles from Tesla with Bitcoin. He also stated that you don't necessarily have to have it be 100% or there, but they have to be moving in the right direction for him to sort of reinstate this process. So I was very surprised. The result of this was that, we've had maybe a $5,000 in the last 24 increase in the value of Bitcoin. MicroStrategy and some of the other miners and so forth have all gotten a nice bump. MicroStrategy was up $70 a share this morning, which is significant on a $500 stock. We also had Tesla up as much as to 623-ish, maybe a little bit higher. But this increase in the value of the stock is reflective of the fact that if there is no impairment charge, and Tesla doesn't have to worry about that, it's worth a certain number of dollars on the balance sheet, which one might consider. So I have to say, a little bit surprised at all of this. I thought Elon would stay with his no Bitcoin for purchasing Tesla vehicles statement, because he articulated a valid point, which is, wait a second, we're trying to reduce the carbon footprint of the world, and you guys in Bitcoin are increasing it based on the production of Bitcoin. So the logic of why he chose to get rid of purchases by Bitcoin, as well as look at, what we were thinking is whether or not the company would hold on to it, basically made some good sense. Now we're in a very interesting position. If these guys are able to get this renewable production process going, I think it would be beneficial to both Tesla and to Bitcoin. So we will keep an eye on this and update you on it. What's my opinion of this? Wow. It reflects the fact that Elon is the type of person that can quickly shift markets on one or two tweets. And obviously that's the case in this case for the folks at Bitcoin. And obviously they're quite grateful that this occurred. The next question is, what should we expect going down the road on this? The answer is, for now, it looks like Bitcoin will continue to rise as we get further details on how and what's going on with this shift in corporate policy. And then I guess the other point here is that without the potential of an impairment charge, and then folks can start counting the amount of profit Tesla and Elon are making on their Bitcoin, I think that it seems to be a positive outcome for the company and probably for Elon, because he, I think, owns some Bitcoin as well. Now, I'd have to also say this might bring up some SEC scrutiny, because on one tweet about Bitcoin, you're seeing the impact that it has on Tesla's stock. So I'd have to say, wow, Elon seems to want to tread in some fairly dangerous territory when it comes to the SEC and potential violations this might trigger. Now, I'd have to also say that, the Plaid coming out and there being large investors who are now sort of making decisions about what to do with their Tesla shares, I think is part of this conversation as well. After Plaid, the stock price is up. We know that. But we also are having the impact of now large institutions starting tomorrow, but possibly starting today, are now starting to take positions in Tesla ahead of when the announcement of production comes January 2nd. There is a concept that I wanted to introduce today that sort of lurks here as well, which is a concept called dollar cost averaging. So what that means is that, one way to articulate it, there are many ways to articulate it, but think of it this way: if you're in a pension fund, in terms of your retirement, what happens is that every month a certain amount of money comes in, and that money has to be invested. So one way you could deal with that is just to say, okay, we have a basket of stocks we're going to choose, and we're going to wait till they go down enough, then we'll buy into them. Well, there's another concept called dollar cost averaging, which means that you're buying the basket of shares that you're targeting on a monthly basis, on a regular basis, whether it's up or down, and therefore the average of those prices is what your cost basis was for that item, in this case Tesla. So I've heard a lot of you using this technique, and I think that, I think it's a good idea if you like the story of the company and how it's doing, etc. But the other problem is that when you have a large amount of dollars to invest, you can't necessarily wait until the last minute and then buy in. Hedge funds do this all the time, but larger institutions can't. So starting, let's say, the 15th and rolling all the way towards July 2nd, I expect there be a large number of entities that are taking positions in Tesla, but they have to spread their purchases over time to ensure that their purchases don't spike the stock price up when they buy. So if I was a large institution, I would likely try to spend half the cash I have to maybe invest in a Tesla over the next couple of weeks, and then depending on how those numbers look as we head into July, you would then maybe increase after a delay period your further purchases to acknowledge the impact of the numbers that the company is generating. So I kind of bring this up today because, yes, I do think that there's an impact of this Bitcoin announcement by Elon on the stock and on Bitcoin, and we can kind of see that. But I also think that lurking behind the scenes is also the fact that everyone's targeting companies that are still growing well, that have solid products, that have a solid market position and control, all of which Elon and Tesla is. So don't be surprised, I would say, to see sort of jump ups in the stock price of Tesla heading into the end of the month, because they're moving a ton of product, and there's no product stops moving. I think we're in a solid period for Tesla over the next several months. And if you're on a long-term trajectory perspective on Tesla, let Cybertruck hit, let Germany hit. There are all these different ways that Tesla is meeting the demand that's increasing for their vehicles, and then sneak in the battery and its ability to lower overall costs for the company. And you just have it's sort of a stew of different ways in which Tesla is well organized to really do very big numbers successfully going forward. So I'm have to say looking forward to this. I think there's a lot of opportunity there, and I really think that those of you who enjoy the stock, enjoy their products, may find a nice little boost that comes from the performance that's going to happen over the next couple of 3 weeks, but is not being sort of acknowledged by the naysayers at CNBC, Wall Street Journal, and other places. So let's keep our eyes peeled, and we look forward to seeing what happens. Usually I try to guess at what I think is going to happen and why. I would say that the problem is that Elon basically just made a policy shift with the comment he made, and I think that there are a lot of analysts that have to go back and review what the implications are, and then you see it moving in the stock price. And I would say the fact that there's a lower chance of an impairment charge, that is kind of a big deal for the company. Plus, you can add the profit that's associated with the Bitcoin Tesla owns. So I just think that there's a confluence of issues that we'll hear from the large investors from in 2 or 3 days. And I think all of it seems to be pretty good. The only issue that I've seen is Canaccord actually did a downgrade on the fact that Elon chose not to produce the Plaid Plus, and his argument there was that there's the potential that the new battery is not working properly, hence inability to do the higher line product. And so, obviously it's a real possibility, and they threw it out there, but the market seems to have shrugged it off as we've had these news about Bitcoin and Tesla sort of re-engaging that relationship when it comes to purchasing vehicles. So we look forward to updating you more as we see more on this, but I think the Bitcoin folks seem to be real happy with that rising price. Wanted to remind you, we do have a few shares of SpaceX if there's interest. We also wanted to encourage you to like and subscribe. Also, join us on Patreon for more up-to-the-minute, faster response info that would help you in your investing, trading, and on Tesla. We also wanted to get to our health tips now. Don't forget, prior to lovemaking, minimize what you're eating. A very light amount of food will allow more blood flow to other extremities than just your stomach in digesting the food. We also want to encourage you to consider something called forest bathing, sort of getting out in nature and allowing the energy from that to re-energize you. We also want to encourage you to make sure your password for your key accounts is 14 units or 14 entities, call it, it could be letters, words, etc. 14 or more as a way to prevent them from being able to make it easy to hack. We also wanted to encourage you to consider, one of the fasting diets, a 5-2, or some of the others I think would be helpful in terms of mental health, etc. At any rate, we also, are open to ideas. If you're a medical professional or something of that ilk, we look forward to getting ideas from you that we can add to our show. At any rate, this is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks once again for joining us. Tschüss German, au revoir French, Lehithro, Hebrew, Hoda Hafez, Farsi, Staraz, Viche Russian, Ni hao ma, Chinese, Konbanwa, Japanese, Hey do our friends in Sweden, G'day our friends in Australia, and in Jamaica we say, Nuff respect, walk good man. Thanks for joining us and have a great day. Bye for now.